I was in high school when this incident took place. I lived in a suburb where modes of entertainment were less. There was a small pub, a shopping complex, and a single-screen movie theater for the entertainment of young minds. I, on the other hand, was a loner because of my confused sexuality phase. I couldn't gather the courage to open up to my parents about being gay. Hence, I cut myself off from any social interaction. My parents, on the other hand, were having marital issues, so I decided to give them all the space they needed. Often at night, I used to sneak out of the house when I couldn't bear the sound of two adults screaming at each other. Their relationship made me realize life is beautiful until you get married. I was a minor, so there's no way I could go to the pub to grab a drink. The shopping mall closed after 8, hence my only recluse was the movie theater. Almost every night they put up a late-night show from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. My distant cousin Jack worked there as a janitor. He helped me to get in and watch those movies without buying a ticket. He called the late-night shows dead hours, as only a handful of people came to see them. It was a warm summer night, and I was feeling disgusted with the loud fights and obscene language of my parents. I dialed Jack's number to know if a show was going on or not. He picked up my call and replied, "About to start in 10 minutes. Hurry up." I sneaked out immediately. The roads were empty. The sounds of crickets and the dim street lights calmed me down. It might feel weird to you, but back then I was going through a really troubled mental state. The only solution was isolation, but being too alone has its consequences too. I could see the blinking signboard of the movie theater from the end of the road. The more I walked towards it, the name of the movie started to become visible. I found out it was a horror movie. I heard about that movie from a bunch of boys in my school, so I got excited. I quickly walked inside and saw Jack standing near the red-colored ticket counter, shielded with a glass cover. He smiled and told me to go in by pointing his finger inside the movie hall. The advertisements had already started. It was quite dark, but the lit movie screen helped me navigate my way through the dark. I didn't want to be bothered, so I grabbed a corner seat from the second row. Apart from me, I could see a couple making out in the front row, and 2 other individuals scattered in the big theater. They were probably homeless people who came to sleep under a roof. The movie started and I took out a pack of cigarettes. This movie theater was never in its best shape on weekdays, that too in such odd hours. You can just smoke or drink, and no one cares. Once I saw a guy doing meth sitting in the front row. I watched the movie on the screen and he saw a movie in his mind. I was already in deep shit, so spending night after night in such an unsafe environment never got me worried. I just put my hoodie on and fired up a cigarette. There were small air vents built up in the corners near the last rows, so it made an ideal spot for me to smoke in peace. The movie started and I was hooked on it. I was watching attentively while smoking. After a point of time, I realized I have to put off the slow-burning cigarette butt. I had no intention to burn this place down, so I took my eyes off the screen and started to put it out with my sneakers. Suddenly, I heard heavy breathing and I looked up to follow the sound. A man was sitting at the left side of the middle row and watching me. Because he sat in the middle, it was possible to see his face. He had a very disturbing stare, as he could see through me. Not just that, but his breathing didn't feel normal to me. His bony face had no blood, and there was something wrong with his right eye. It was twitching at times in a very creepy way. He smiled at me for no reason, and I knew this was just another meth head. I ignored him and started watching the movie again. I thought he would pass out on his seat, so it's better to avoid him. God, I wish he passed out. A moment later, out of curiosity, I looked back at him again. But this time, I saw an even more filthy sight. The man's mouth was open, and he was drooling like a dog. I can't even explain how disgusted I felt. Drops of saliva were all over his chin. I felt like I was going to puke on the floor. But as I said, I've spent night after night in this doomed place, so I got my shit together and returned to the movie. I thought that I'm not the only one inside this movie theater. Also, my cousin is outside. There's no way this man could cause harm to me. I took out a beer can that I stole from my dad and started sipping from it. In the next 5 minutes, I had the worst experience of my life that still scares me to go to a movie alone. I don't know what got inside that drooling dude, but he got up trembling like a corpse and started to change seats to get closer to me. His breathing got way more intense, like he's dying to get close to me. I was so shocked and freaked out that I forgot to move. The man slowly crawled over the seats like a zombie while stretching his arms towards me and exhaling all the air in his lungs. He was probably 3 rows away from me when my cell phone buzzed and I got up screaming, "Get away! Get away from me!" I jumped from my seat and ran towards the exit door. While crossing the front row in a hurry, I tripped over the couple who were busy on their own, and it resulted in a huge brawl. The boyfriend got up and grabbed my hoodie to teach me a lesson. I tried to explain this to him, the situation, but he was being the alpha male at that point. I knew I was going home with a black eye and maybe some bruises, but as he lifted his arm to punch me, his girlfriend screamed in terrible pain, and the lights were on. We all saw the man was sitting on the floor near us and biting the girl's left leg with his rotten teeth. Jack rushed in and the 2 other homeless men woke up. The paramedics were called in and so the cops. It came to know that the man was neither a psycho nor a drug addict. He was suffering from the last stage of rabies. There's no doubt he lived in the streets and not in very hygienic circumstances. The paramedics found a bite mark probably caused by an infectious street dog on his right arm. The rabies patient suffers acute pain with the difficulty in swallowing that leads to a dry throat. When this man saw me taking a sip from the beer, all he wanted was to quench the horrifying thirst he was experiencing. That's why he started to come close to me, or rather, towards my beer can. The girl who got bitten was immediately vaccinated, and I hope she didn't end up like that poor homeless man. Although the paramedics took him in, it was too late for him. He passed out in some hours, and I came home with a freaking scary memory that still haunts me at night.